everyone, Sir Mitch, how are we? Welcome to the channel. We're back with our best of 3 historic series, and today's video we're looking at historic goblins, or as I like to call them, historically mad goblins. So let's get into it and have a bit of a look at the list right now. So we originally did film this video a couple of days ago with another version of the list, and the list wasn't great. I hadn't crafted Muxus, so I wanted to see whether we could make goblins work without Muxus being in the list. We couldn't, so we had to redo the list, and I've refilmed the video. So we can see here that we're running Skirk Prospectors, we're running Goblin Instigators, Conspicuous Snoops, which is just a powerhouse in this deck. It allows you just to play things off the top of your deck and really outvalue your opponent if they don't deal with it. Wily Goblin, which helps us get to our Muxus a lot quicker. Gem Palm Incinerator is a one-of in main board. There are more on sideboard though. Matrons to dig out Muxus or Goblin Chieftain, depending on what we really need. We've got Krenko Tin Street Kingpin. Now this list varies slightly from other people's lists. A lot of people are running Krenko Mob Boss. I do think it is the better card to be running. I don't have the wild cards to craft it, as we can see here. I've got no more rare wild cards left at the moment. I've used them to make a few decks. So I'm running the off meta Krenko. It still does alright. It just doesn't hit as hard as potentially Mob Boss does, which can lead to a bit of clunkiness in some games, as you, I believe, will see in some of the videos. We have 4 Goblin Chieftains, 4 War Chiefs, 1 Ringleader. I don't think the deck really needs to run more than one Ringleader in main board. We have 3 Muxus. Now, I should be running 4, but again, ran out of wild cards, so I'm actually running an extra Krenko in place of the 4th Muxus. We could maybe go up an Incinerator in main board, but then we have to start playing with the sideboard, so I figured that was the lesser of 2 evils. Muxus is really good. I mean, obviously it's a 4/4 for 6. It can be a lot cheaper if you've got War Chiefs on the board. But the fact it lets you dig 6 and put any goblins from the top of your deck into play can just lead to massive blowouts when you're playing games. We have in our sideboard, we have Tormod's Crypt. Now that's there so we can deal with some of those pesky decks where Uro's recurring, some sacrifice decks where things are coming back from the graveyard, things like that. We've got Crater Maker, we've got 3 Gem Palm Incinerators, 4 Chain Whirlers, really strong in the mirror match, 4 Ruin Blasters, very good against Field of the Dead decks, and 1 Trash Master. So that's what we're running now. Some of the real key lines of play in this deck list here is opening hand, having something like a Skirk Prospector and an Instigator, and then potentially having a Muxus or drawing into a Muxus naturally, because you can go turn 1 Prospector, turn 2 Instigator, turn 3 play your land, sack both the creatures from the Instigator, sack the Prospector, and then get to your Muxus. And hopefully on turn 3 you just dump 5 or 6 goblins onto the field, they have haste, and you win on turn 3. It does happen. Doesn't happen as often as I'd like. It probably happened a little bit more if I was running the 4th Muxus, but it is what it is. That's one of the key lines of play. Other things, you can win just through valuing your opponent out by going, Prospector turn 1, Instigator turn 2 into a War Chief or a Chieftain, and then just outvaluing your opponent as typical Goblin decks do. Even Chieftain, popping this turn 2 to play a Chieftain or a War Chief on turn 2, and then playing your 3rd land and going to a Krenko on turn 3. Sometimes that works really well as well. It just depends on the deck you're playing against. It's a bit difficult to know in game 1, but once you've played them in game 1, you know what they're on, you can sort of make that judgment call for yourself. But the deck's quite fun. If you've got the option, I would definitely run a 4th Muxus and just 1 Krenko Mob Boss rather than Krenko Tin Street. But if you don't, this is a bit of let's call it a slightly budget build. That's what it is. Let's have a look at the games, and I'll be back after the games are finished, and we'll see how we go. Alright guys, game 1, here we go. Historically mad goblins. We are playing Gear Daddy. You come across some very interesting names on Arena. We'll play first. I would have liked to have seen a Prospector here, but it's not a horrible hand. It could get quite aggressive very quickly, so we'll keep it. With the conspicuous Snoop in hand, it's pretty decent. Alright, they've taken a mole, we'll play a land, we'll say hello because we're nice like that. Looks like we might be on a bit of a mirror match here. That'll be a bit unfortunate if we are. It's going to come down to whoever gets Muxus out first. Snap. Wish there was a snap button in Arena. We'll get in for some points of damage with our conspicuous Snoop. We'll actually hope that Chieftain doesn't get dealt with here by an Incinerator. Yeah, we won't take any. We won't block here. We get to make some Goblin tokens next turn, so that's fine. Are we better off doing this or that? This. Better off playing this than Goblins together at this point. We get to make 3 tokens, so we can actually block the opponent out next turn. They might have an Incinerator to do with our Krenko here. If they're running a similar list to what I'm running, they're only running 1 Incinerator in mainboard. They're running Mob Boss. That's pretty good. I should be running Mob Boss, but I don't have the wildcards for it. So I'm running Poor Man's Krenko instead. But I think perhaps we still get there. They're on 9, they can block 3. He can make 3, so they can block 5. We have 6 attackers. We probably don't quite get there just yet. I think we just put the pressure on here. He can make 3. Doesn't die, he makes more next turn, but a lot of his other stuff will have to trade off. So there's going to be a fair few blocks here. I assume Krenko might even die here. They might double block Krenko with a token and a Snoop. No, they're going to trade Snoops off. Okay. It's actually not even bad for us. Alright, it didn't come down to who got Muxus first. It came down to who got Krenko first. So the opponent's playing basically what we're playing, so I'm going to assume that their sideboard tech is going to be similar to what we're sideboarding in. So we're going to go in with all 4 Chain Whirlers. We're going to take out Ringleader. We're going to take out both Krenkos. We're going to remove 1 Instigator. We're actually going to go down... We're going to go down a second Instigator because I want to run a second Incinerator. This is about the only way that we have interaction with their Muxus. Opponent's going first. This is a terrible hand. We're going to mulligan this hand. It's not much better. We have to put something back. I'm inclined to return one of the conspicuous Snoops here to keep the Chain Whirler open for us. Have they got a turn 1 Prospector? No, they're running a Fanatical Firebrand, which is interesting because it's not a card you see in a lot of the different Goblin lists out there at the moment, but I guess it makes sense as a sideboard tech perhaps. Prospector, no worries. We take 1. So I think here we need to get ourselves into a position where they can't kill our creature we play with Fanatical. So we got double Chain Whirler, this is good. This is very good, especially when the opponent's... I think they took a mole, so that's pretty good for us. And played the Chain Whirler. They'll probably ping us for one. Yeah, they'll ping us for one. That's fine. And we've got the second chain wheeler sitting there as backup, so that's also very, very good. Alright, so they've got a Goblin War Chief there. That's a little bit... could be a little bit annoying, I guess. I think we just go to combat here first, because nothing we have has haste, and playing our War Chief doesn't net us haste. So let's just go to combat. We'll see if we trade off with the Snoop. We very well likely may trade off with the Snoop here. And I'm fine offering that trade because the opponent's effectively 2 cards in hand, 4 lands. We're on 3 lands, but we've got the Chain Wheeler, we've got Wily Goblins. We can give everything haste, so you know, we might be in a reasonably good position very shortly. We don't get the trade-off. That's interesting. I think here we'll just drop. So we could play our other Chain Whirler here and it doesn't really net us anything. If they've got a Prospector and Muxus in hand, they can cast it. Do we go Wily Goblin or do we go the second Chain Whirler here? I think we go the second Chain Whirler. Puts them to 11. If they don't have the Muxus and a way to cast it, then they could potentially just lose next turn, depending on what happens. Okay, so they've played another creature, so that doesn't necessarily make them lose. So here we could go... We're just going to go to combat with these two. We might get double block. No double blocks. Okay, no double blocks. That's mind-boggling. Let's go Matron. And let's grab a Chieftain. That way we know we can pump our board next turn without having to rely on hitting a land. Alright, so they've got to the Muxus. They almost whiff off the Muxus. Like, that's a really bad Muxus hit. 3, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Sure, we chump block this here. And they can see before they lose. Awesome, on to game 2. Alright everyone, game 2 of Historically Mad Goblins. We are playing against Flea 420. And we're on the play, which I love. This hand is a little bit clunky. It's a little bit clunky. We have the Phyrexian Tower, which is great. We have 2 sources of red, a Wily Goblin. So theoretically, we have 5 mana available to us. So if we draw a Muxus early, it might be okay. We can obviously get to our Muxus by digging with our Matrons. So let's keep it, see what we draw. We'll play our land, we'll say hello. And we'll see what Flea 420's on. It might be a mirror match. It's a mirror match. Snap. So we're going to play the Embereth here. We're going to play our Wily Goblin. Wily Goblin, that is. We'll pass turn. They've got an Instigator. We have a Goblin Chieftain. I don't believe they offer up the trade here. They're offering up a trade. That's interesting. They must have a second Skirk Prospector in hand. So we'll take the trade because there's no point in us not taking the trade at that point. We'll play the Chieftain, hope they don't end up with a way to remove it, and then we can play our Krenko next turn, our baby Krenko, and hopefully start just making the Goblin value train work. They're going to dig. Do they grab Muxus or do they grab something else here? So good thing is Krenko will live through a triple block here. Can they get... I mean, if they've got a Skirk Prospector, obviously they do get there. But we've got some blockers. You'd hope that maybe they whiff and don't hit their Goblin Chieftain or War Chief. Okay, so they've got the Skirk Prospector, so they're going to have to sack their board, basically, to get Muxus out here. Here comes Muxus. If they whiff off this, it's really good for us. Yeah, that's... I mean, I guess that's a whiff. They didn't get haste. None of their guys have been buffed. So that's great. They do have an Incinerator in hand. So this list is running more Incinerators main board than what our list is currently running. So that's something that we need to be conscious of. So what's the play here? We can Matron grab Muxus. If 1, 2, 3, we still need to cast Prospector to get it there. So they're going to try and kill our Krenko here, I think. So we probably should have attacked first. Well, they're going to kill our Chieftain. If they kill our Chieftain, that's... I'm actually not horribly upset by that. They're trying to stop us getting to our Muxus here, I guess. They must assume we've got it in hand. So if I play this... Let's go to combat first. We'll make some more goblins that we can sacrifice. Sure. So our Krenko dies. We then go 1, 2... add red, sure. We'll take the action. We'll grab our Muxus. We'll sacrifice this. And then we'll cast this. We'll auto pay, so we'll use the 2. We'll sacrifice this goblin. Sacrifice this goblin. Hopefully we don't whiff off this. If we whiff off this, we're actually probably going to be in Pain Town. No, opponent concedes. We don't even get to see what we hit. Game 2. So the opponent's on Goblins. Ringleader comes out like last game. Both Krenkos will come out here. We'll throw in all 4 Chain Whirlers. Go down 2 Instigators. Go up an Incinerator. And I think that's fine. Going to 4 Incinerators maybe is a little bit too much. I think 2 Incinerators and a Chain Whirler is fine. So far, so the first time I did this, I did make this video previously with a very underpowered version of Goblins. I was trying to run Goblins without Muxus to see whether it would work. Didn't go so well. We lost quite a number of games. This new version of the list is going really, really well for us. It seems to be pretty much the baseline version that everybody has to run. I prefer to be running an additional Muxus. We're running 3, but I don't have the additional wildcard to craft the 4th, so we're running with 3 at this point. I think the 4th would make it slightly better, a little bit more consistent, but it is what it is. This is where we're currently at. We will go... I want to try and maximise our Chain Whirler here. The problem is, if we leave another turn and they cast Goblin Chieftain, the Chain Whirler doesn't actually kill anything. But if we cast the Chain Whirler, we have to get rid of our Skirk Prospector, and I think that that's just bad for us at this point. So let's Instigator, and we'll just pass turn. The opponent hasn't gone Skirk Prospector turn 1 into Instigator turn 2, so I'm not too concerned about them casting Muxus on turn 3 here. They're going to have their own Chain Whirler, which is a bit unfortunate. So it's going to be a Chain Whirler v Chain Whirler battle here, so maybe I should have Chain Whirlered last turn. Do we just in response? I think we do. In response, we're going to 1, 2. We're going to shoot one of theirs just so we can draw a card. Because we're sitting on a Wily Goblin and a Chain Whirler in hand, it's not going to do us a lot. Another Incinerator, that's fine. Okay, so we're going to Chain Whirler here. We can actually kill their Chain Whirler in a couple of turns with Incinerator. If only we'd left it another turn, right? They don't attack. The opponent does not attack here. That's interesting. So let's go Prospector, Wily Goblin. We will cycle this and shoot their Chain Whirler. So we've dumped our hand much quicker than our opponent has, but if they can't wipe the board, then we're doing okay. We'll swing for 3. And we'll end turn. So we got Conspicuous Snoop on top as well, so that might get us somewhere. So they've got a Prospector, so they're going to shoot our Chain Whirler. Okay, it's a Chain Whirler for Chain Whirler game here. Do they attack? I don't know if attacking's great for them at the moment, because we can pump our Goblins on the crackback. War Chief is very, very good. I'll go Snoop first, because I want to see what's on top. Okay, it's not a Muxus, so we're not getting Muxus out this turn. So we're going to get a combat, but we're going to get a combat with everything but our Prospector. We want to keep the Prospector open here. We actually don't want to go with our Conspicuous Snoop either. We'll just go with War Chief and Wily Goblin, and we'll see if we can draw a trade-off here. It'd be alright if we get a double trade-off with a War Chief. We don't. So even that's not horrible, because we hit our 6th land off the top of the deck next turn. So if we get another 2-cost Goblin, we could play it, have haste, and swing. Hopefully the opponent's going to whiff here. Whiff, whiff, whiff. They do not whiff. They hit a War Chief, a Chieftain, and a Firebrand. Them's a little bit painful. So the opponent's on 13. We have to block the Muxus. I don't know if swinging all out is in their favour here, because if we get a decent run off the conspicuous Snoop, we can almost kill them. So we have to block the Muxus here. We take 3, 5, 7, 9. So we're on a 2-turn clock based on that. So we really need to see some good value up off the top here. Land off the top into a Muxus would be amazing. It would close the game out. It's not a land off the top into a Muxus. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We're 2 points short, which is the one creature that we had to block with. It's the one creature that we had to block with before, which is unfortunate. I think we need to pass here. We need to play the defensive track here. Somehow keep our Snoops alive next turn, while obviously our Wily Goblin can just chump the Muxus. He's got extra damage. They've got extra damage, which isn't great for us. I think we're just going to go to game 3 here. Yeah, we just go to game 3 here. They get us. Okay, that was a bit unlucky. They hit the Muxus, so their hand was just a little bit better than what ours was. Unfortunately, we had to block. We had to block that Muxus with the one creature we needed to be able to win the game. Realistically, we were 2 points short of winning on the crackback there. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it happens sometimes. The opponent's taking some time to sideboard here. So I'm really, really enjoying this Goblins deck now that I've reworked it a little bit. Goblins is actually a really fun mirror match to play because it comes down to one of two things. It comes down to who has more removal in their deck, main board or sideboard, depending which game you're playing, and also, realistically, who gets the more aggressive hand, whether it's Muxus or whether it's just, Chieftain into Chieftain into Chieftain. Comes down to really who has the aggressive hands. This is a little bit slow. There is a Chain Whirler, but we're on 5 lands. We can't play anything turn 1. We got a turn 2, 3 play. If we start drawing lands, we effectively lose the game. But if we hit a Muxus, we're guaranteed to at least be able to cast it. We will mulligan. That's a much better hand. We can pitch a land, play our Skirk Prospector, play our Wily Goblin. We might even be able to Chain Whirler after their turn 2. So if we can... Yeah, we go with Wily Goblin. They've got their 5 brand. That's fine. They're probably going to shoot our Skirk Prospector now. That's fine. That's okay with me. I don't think we're going to win this game here necessarily through a Muxus. It's just going to be an aggressive game plan with Chieftain and Chain Whirlers. Hopefully we'll draw another land off the top. Conspicuous Snoop, that's fine. Land off the top, fantastic. We'll play Chieftain. We'll attack with Wily Goblin. We don't draw the block, which is good. There is an Incinerator though, so this is going to be a bit unfortunate because we will lose... Oh, we won't. No, because they can't incinerate this turn, so we get to kill their stuff. fantastic. We'll swing with these two. So they won't have enough goblins on the board to be able to kill our chieftain. Unless they play another 1 cost. Here we go. They might be able to now. If they've got another Snoop. No, they're going to cycle it. Like, if they got a... Yep, sure. Goblins on battlefield, yep. Okay, so they can do it. It does do that. That's a little bit disgusting. Let's go to combat. See if we can coax the Snoop into blocking the goblin and then kill it. No. They want to trade off there? Okay. Well, let's hold back the Chain Whirler then. Let them play some creatures. Sure. It's not a Muxus, but it'll do. It's another land. Do we swing here? Do we swing here? It'll be a trade-off. Sure, let's offer up this. Let's offer up the block. Hopefully we hit something good off the top after this mountain gets drawn. Otherwise we're kind of sitting dead in the water. The opponent's obviously going to grab Muxus here. Not saying a Matron has hurt us. I think this is where not running 4 is quite detrimental to us. We need to get as many goblins out on that board as possible. They might have... no, they don't have another incinerator. Alright, so they hit their Muxus. Oh, they hit the Chieftain. We die. It was a bit of a gamble swinging all out. We were hoping that maybe they might whiff on the Muxus, but they didn't. It happens. On to game 3. Here we go, guys. Game 3. Historically mad goblins. Hopefully we'll at least get 2 wins out of this week's video. We took a bit of a punt with that last combat step during game 2. I was really hoping the opponent was going to whiff off the Muxus. It was a bit of a gamble, and the gamble backfired, unfortunately. So we're going to keep this one. Skirk Prospector, Goblin Chieftain, Goblin Matron, and War Chief, all very, very good, especially for this hand. So we'll keep this. The opponent's going first. We will say hello. Let's see what the opponent's on. They've taken a mole. They've played an island. Okay. So I'm going to assume they're probably on something like the red-blue Phoenix deck. I'm sure if they are, there will be a shock or something coming soon. They could just be on mono blue, but there is Phoenix decks getting around with Siren Storm Tamer in mainboard, which I find a little bit unusual, but hey, that's what they are. Go to attacks. Is there going to be a flash creature here? No, good. Turn 2, we're going to play our Snoop, because I want to be able to try and cast as many goblins off the top as possible here. Does it resolve? The opponent is thinking. And it gets countered. We'll play a castle. We will... I'm going to cast the War Chief here, because I'd rather the War Chief gets countered than the Chieftain. They're having a good think about whether they counter this or not. Brunborn, okay. Okay. Let's see if they'll take a trade. They do not take the trade. No bait taken. We have Muxus. So, 2 cards in hand. What are the odds the opponent has a counterspell here? Realistically, what are the odds they have a counterspell? They're on 2 cards. I think we maybe need to play a couple more threats out just to see whether there's going to be a counterspell. So let's start by casting Wily Goblin, because I want the extra treasure. Okay, let's cast the Chieftain, see if that draws a counterspell out. There's the counterspell, people. So we won't go to combat here. We will pass turn with no attacks. See what happens here. So the opponent's sitting on 2 cards. They've just used a counterspell. What are the odds that they've got another counterspell off the top or had another one sitting in their hand? I don't know. We'll throw the Muxus out there because we have another Matron, so we can dig for another one if need be. Muxus resolves. We make a metric ton of goblins. Sure. Opponent concedes. Okay. Easy. So we're playing mono blue by the looks of it. We probably want the Chain Whirlers in here, to be honest. Chain Whirler comes in very, very handy, especially if we can get it to trade off nicely with something. We'll drop an Instigator. We'll throw in... Let's put in 2 Incinerators, drop 2 Instigators. I think we'll leave the Krenkos here at the moment because it's a bit harder for mono blue to deal with Krenko and it's harder for them to wipe the board. So we will leave it there. Yeah, the hand's a bit slower. The opponent's kept 7. Matron and the lands guarantee that we at least get to Muxus. Whether we get to cast it is a different story. So that's mulligan. That's a much better hand. We'll pitch a mountain, go from there. Out comes Siren Storm Tamer. Fantastic. We'll play our land. We'll get to our Prospector. We'll pass turn. Cerulean Drake, which is fair because, you know, we are a red deck. We'll play another land. We'll play our Wily Goblin. We'll pass turn with no attacks. Realistically, if we top deck Muxus here, we can cast it. I would like to top deck it here. Oh, the calls, people. The calls. Fantastic. Now, all we have to do is hope we do not whiff. If we whiff, it's going to suck. Here we go. We'll sack the Wily Goblin. We'll sack the Skirk Prospector. Out comes Muxus. We do not whiff. We get a bunch of stuff going on here. We'll take another one. And we'll even take Look, let's take 2. We'll force them to have counter spells in their hand. We have another Prospector as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, I think we just go to combat here. They have to block the Muxus. And they're going to take 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 points of damage. Fantastic. We'll pass turn. The opponent didn't concede though. There we go. There's the concede. We get there. 2 out of 3 ain't bad, as Meatloaf said. That is the end of round 3. So we effectively finished at Diamond Tier 2. Fantastic. We have 7 days left, and hopefully we'll get to Mythic. There we go, guys. So, historically mad Goblins. Deck's quite fun, as you can see. It has a few really fun lines of play. It can be quite explosive. The mirror match is very fun to play, especially when you pick that it's the mirror match nice and early. You can really adjust the way you play and come up with some really creative lines to try and get the win. As you can see, we went 2-1, so it's not terrible. I think the deck would perform better if we had 4 Muxus instead of 3, and we were running a Mob Boss instead of a Tin Street. But we have to work with what we've got, and that's what this channel is all about. It's not about playing, and that series is all about. It's not about playing the most meta deck out there. It's looking at what everyone else is doing and either playing something slightly off meta, something slightly different, or maybe tweaking those lists and making it so it works with what you've got in your collection. We don't all have hundreds and hundreds of dollars to invest into Arena, and it is technically meant to be a free-to-play type game. So for those of you who don't want to spend the money, that is definitely an option to play it in this fashion. I really don't think there's any issues with Krenko Tin Street. It does make the deck a little bit slower, but the card's still okay, and it's very, very difficult for them to deal with once you play Goblin Chieftain and then into your Krenko, because it instantly becomes a lot bigger. So, and that back end is obviously quite good at that point. So standard shock removal doesn't quite cut the mustard, so to speak. That's what we've got now. There is a bit of news as well. I do have a new rig coming for my computer and streaming. Now, what that means is hopefully all the parts will be here end of this week. If the parts are here by the end of this week, well then it'll all be happy days. I'll have it all assembled probably Friday night or Saturday morning, and that'll give me plenty of time to film next week's video. If that is not the case though, I may not get a chance to film the video. I'm a bit busy throughout the rest of this week, and if I don't get it assembled Friday, unfortunately it's just not going to be filmed. But nonetheless, I will update everybody on my Facebook and social media feeds, my Twitter channel and those sorts of things. I'm sure you will know as soon as I know. In the meantime, enjoy the video. Let me know what you think of Historically Mad Goblins. I think it was quite a fun deck, and I'll see you next week. Until then, take care and enjoy the rest of your week.